everyone, today we're going to be talking about everything you need to know for the GAT starting from 2022 onwards. And the good news is you do not have to study for the GAT. Just watch this video and by the end of this video, you're going to feel confident and prepared walking into the GAT. If you don't know me, I'm Lisa. I scored perfect 10 out of 10 for my own writing tasks in my own GAT. And I was really lucky to have a tutor who was a VCAT examiner who told me exactly what to do for my writing tasks. I want to share with you the tips I've learned because many of the students I've then gone on to tutor have achieved perfect scores in their own writing tasks as well. So the first thing we're going to go through is what is the GAT? So essentially the GAT is an external assessment created by VCA in order to actually standardize everybody's results across the board. So because you go to different schools, different teachers will mark your SACs in their own way. And so how do you make sure that your A in your school is equivalent to another student's A in another school? What if, for example, you had a closed book SAC and it was only 1 hour long, but this other student had an open book SAC, they could bring whatever resources they want into the SAC, and they managed to have an extra half hour, so 1.5 hours for their SAC. Doesn't seem exactly fair, does it? So what the GAT does is it helps to recalibrate everybody onto the same level because you have this one test that everybody does with the same questions and you're marked based on that. And then based on your schools get ranked, your scores get pushed either up and down in order to be standardized across the board. I've got a full video explaining how VCU works, so I'll link that up above if you wanted to check it out too. But now that we know what the GAT is, let's actually start talking about the structure of the GAT. So I'm going to teach you the GAT structure, including how much time you have for each section of the GAT, and I'm going to teach you how you should actually break up your own time management so that you can write as much as possible in your essays, which is then more likely to get you higher marks.
You're not going to listen to VCA's instructions, and this is why. Highlighted in orange is VCA's recommended time for you to spend on each of the 3 parts of section A. Now this is what happens when people follow the recommended durations. They do 30 minutes of a writing task and they're absolutely rushing through it because who has ever written an essay in 30 minutes? Then they go and spend 45 minutes on the next MCQ and then 45 minutes on the next MCQ. But then because MCQs actually don't take that long, they find they have time left over. So instead, in order to maximize your time efficiency to get the highest points possible, you want to swap them around. Do your MCQ questions first, and whatever time you have left over, and that might be 5 up to 10 minutes, you can then apply it to your writing task and have up to 45 minutes to write. This way, you actually give yourself time to actually think about your response, come up with creative ideas, actually write more. Now, similar thing applies for your section B. So you've got 1.5 hours and 15 minutes writing time. 15 minutes writing time is compulsory. It's the first thing you'll do, but then it's up to you what you want to do in the next 1.5 hours. So their recommended time is 30 minutes for your essay writing. But what I recommend again is for you to start off with your 25 MCQs, your other 25 MCQs, whatever time you have left over, then use it for that extra writing task or the second writing task, and you've got extra time to actually do more, write more, think of better quality ideas, and trust me, this is going to be a game changer.
Sweet, so now that we're done with the structure, let's dive into what the MCQ questions look like. We're going to go through a couple together so that you know how to think about it and get to the right answer, hopefully, and then we're going to cover what the writing tasks look like too. So if you wanted to find your own resource for the GAT, you can just type in GAT 2022 and go find it on Google. Let's look at section A first. So we're going to dive into the reading part, and what I recommend you do is let's actually go through this together so you're actually thinking about it and can figure out, where your weaknesses and where your strengths are. Pause this video, read through this question, and once you've decided your answer, start playing this video so we can go through it together. So what you're going to notice in terms of section A is that a lot of the questions are based on everyday situations. And I think this is a really good thing because you can leverage your own life skills to apply them to the situation at hand. So I'm not going to read this out loud. I'm going to assume that you have already read it. So my main tip for multiple choice questions is for you to use deduction. So deduction is basically when you start ruling out the different options on the table. So option A, B, C, or D to figure out which option is the most likely. And often when you looked at this question, you may have seen the answer straight away and it might have been super obvious, but a lot of questions that will come up won't be as obvious. And that's where deduction comes in because you start looking at what's in the paragraph and slowly ruling out the 3 options until you're left with one option that makes the most sense. So if we look here at what is the source of Lisa's debt, you'll see we've got firstly unpaid rent. So what I do in a question like this is I actually start going through the paragraph again and actually see if there's any evidence to say that she has unpaid rent. And so what I can see is that she actually currently lives with her family. She wants to move to a share house and she has worked out what her share of rent is, but she hasn't actually moved out yet, and therefore she doesn't actually have any unpaid rent. So don't let the fact that she's talking about rent confuse you into thinking that she has unpaid rent. So that actually crosses out option A. Now let's look at option B, which are credit card purchases. Let's find out if there's any evidence that she has made credit card purchases. If I actually review the entire paragraph, there is nowhere that says she actually owns a credit card. Don't get confused by anything that's mentioned here because none of them are actually credit cards. Cool, moving on. So the third one, C, third one is overdue bills. So I know here it says that she has bills, but nowhere does it say that her bills are overdue. So this is what these kind of MCQ questions do. They sprinkle the keywords throughout the paragraph to make you think, oh, I saw that. Okay, I'm just gonna pick that as the correct option. Whereas you really have to think about it and see, hang on a minute, is this actually the case? And so if we look at D, which is the loan, what you'll see is here, it says that Lisa also forgot about the repayments on the loan she'd taken out last year for a holiday. So the reason why I mentioned it's really helpful for you to leverage your own life experiences is because this paragraph does not explain to you what a loan is. It's just kind of expected that you understand that a loan is a thing where you borrow money from the bank, for example, and that you need to pay that money back. And so that's what repayments are. Now, because she's actually taken out a loan, that's money that she never had. So that is her debt. And so here is expect that you understand what a debt is. Of course, you can always use your dictionary. That's why it's there with you. And so if we look at what the answer is D. Too easy. So there's plenty of other examples here. So I'll link them down below for you so you can go and try them yourself. Same thing with the numeracy. We won't go through that together, but I'll leave it up to you guys to deduce the answers yourself. Now let's look into the writing component. So essentially, this is the important part of it. The criteria is that you're going to be assessed on the audience, ideas, structure and cohesion, vocabulary, grammar, punctuation, and spelling. So I'm going to break down to you what you need to do in the writing task to make sure that you tick these points off. Pause this video, have a read of the question, and then let's go through it together. All right, cool. So you can see that the writing task has been broken up into part A and part B because you've got 30 minutes to spend on the writing task. But remember, if you've done it the way that I recommend, you hopefully have a little bit more than 30 minutes under your belt. What Vika recommends is that you spend 10 minutes on part 1 and then 20 minutes on part 2. So that basically just tells you that part A should be shorter than part B. You should spend double the amount of time on part B. So remember how in the criteria for section A writing, it says you have to think about your audience. If we look at the prompt, you can see that you are a senior student and you need to write an email to the school council president. So in terms of the audience, you're not talking to the principal of the school. You're not talking to the builders who are going to come and construct the suggestions that you've got online. What you're doing is you're targeting the school council president, who is just another peer of yours. So if it's a peer, think about what type of language you should be using. This is where you leverage your analyzing argument skills. I'm thinking you should be using inclusive language. We, us, the school council president, they're just another one of you guys. They also understand that that's why your cafeteria is not big enough and that's why you have to sit outside in the rain to eat. I don't know, but that's just an example for you. You can also appeal to their sense of leadership, They're in this position of power as the school council president. We look up to them as the people who voted the president in. So you could be using language to really amp them up, to show them that you really respect them and you value all of the work that they've done in the school. And so that's why you'd really love for them to vouch for a bigger cafeteria. And that if it came from the school council president, that the principal will listen to them. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm just making this up on the spot, but this language really targets the right audience, as you can see. Next, we're talking about ideas. So when we think about ideas, what you should be thinking about is engagement with the topic. Don't go off topic and start talking about how the money that's been there hasn't been spent on the right places so far. It's not about that. What they want you to do is think about what the money should be spent on. So just make sure that you're answering the prompt and that you're coming up with original ideas. When I say original ideas, don't make it boring like, oh, we want to have this because of this, right? Let's just say if you wanted to add an extra flair into your essay, what you could do is, if you wanted to go from a sustainability approach, an eco-friendly approach, then throughout your letter you could be saying, you know, as a school we've won awards for being eco-friendly and we've supported all of these charities and we've planted so many trees in our school as part of every student's induction. And so when it comes to the cafeteria, what I'm suggesting is another eco-friendly build. Could we build the cafeteria from bamboo? Like, you're really creating a world here for your examiner to really get sucked into. Then afterwards is structure and cohesion. So this is really just the flow of your essay structure. Introduction, body paragraphs, conclusion. Make sure that your paragraphs flow on from one another as well. And then afterwards you've got vocab, grammar, punctuation, and spelling. And honestly, there's not much I can help you out there. Use your dictionary. Cool. Okay, so now we're done with section A. We're covering section B, which is very much the same. You've got your multiple choice for you to do, and then you've got your writing task 2. So I've created an entire video where I cover how I got 10 out of 10 for my writing task 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to direct you to that video for you to watch. And that is it. I wish you all the very best for the GAT. Hopefully at this point you feel confident. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this video, how you're feeling about it. And after you GAT, let me know how you go. I really want to hear about it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll chat to you guys soon. Bye.